Good afternoon, Denise, Ikeza, and Skyza. My name is Mabel Louie, and I was brought back out of retirement to lead the jurisdiction file, and have been doing that for a few months now. A lot of work took place prior to me being hired, so a lot of my time has been spent reviewing all the materials and the many work plans that have been put in place. And I'm excited about the work of jurisdiction because my career began in Saikas First Nations as a child care worker there and as a child care worker there, I had to work with the children and families, the children that were apprehended from Saikas. We had a child welfare committee who provided really good direction on what I had to do as a child care worker. And I look at these work plans and for jurisdiction that were put in place in the last few years, and it's so similar to what the elders in Saikas wanted done, to be able to have jurisdiction over their children. So I'm really happy to be a part of that work that I began a long time ago in Saikas, and then I'm going to end my career in that same field. So I'm excited in that way, and I'd like to introduce Stephanie Konefall, and she can tell a bit more about herself and the work that she's been doing with Mary and Werner for these past few years in getting the file in order. Thank you.
Hadi denetse sekose skyse. Sai Stephanie Konefall Saatni, Sai Director of Jurisdiction for Caris County Family Services. Thanks for hanging in to the end. We like to pick up the last little bits, but what it's done is it's given me an opportunity to also recollect some of the work that my team has done in the past to answer some of the many questions that have come up as we go forward. I just wanted to acknowledge the matriarchs, the men who have worked with the jurisdiction team, and the youth who are beginning to work with the jurisdiction team and their contributions. And we do have some sharings over the last year that will really be able to reflect those contributions. As Mabel had said, this work did not start recently. This work is ongoing, and the way we like to see the team that I work with is to be able to pull those pieces together and hold them up to move things forward into the future. I'm going to figure out how to use the clicker. There we go. A couple of the things that I wanted to highlight in response to Heather's question earlier around the decolonizing approach. Within the jurisdiction portfolio, and one of the many work plans that Mabel had referred to, is a decolonizing policy work plan. And what that entails is working with language speakers and working with members of the community in our focus groups, the Matriarchs' Voices, the Men's Conference, as well as our Youth Advisory Council that's beginning to work with us, to make sure that anything that we draft moving forward, including policies that will be changing and shifting to meet jurisdiction in the future, have a full decolonizing eye to them. And we'll work across departments within CSFS and our member communities to make sure that all the correct perspectives are included within that. One of the other things I wanted to highlight was that the work of jurisdiction does have one overarching work plan, what Warner likes to call the governance work plan. And this, with our member communities as well as all departments within CSFS, are going to begin to culminate all of the shifts and changes that we need to take care of the good things that are happening now as we transition forward under our own legislation into what we call the future state. There's a couple of ways that we're beginning to communicate about this. I just grabbed the koozie off the front. There's still a stack of copies left, so on your way out, grab it. And I just wanted to highlight, too, that the jurisdiction portfolio has a regular update page within the koozie on a quarterly basis. And on that page, we highlight some of the activities and processes that we're doing to help keep communication and the understanding about what that jurisdiction process means as we go forward. We're also heavily involved in the drafting of the law, and Warner had mentioned in some of the opening comments that we might be on version, well, I don't know, 13 or 36. It is a work in progress. It's being highly scrutinized very, very carefully and now managed by the Oversight Committee. And all chiefs are welcome to participate in that Oversight Committee. And we meet monthly to make sure that the progress on the law, the work moving us forward, happens in a very accountable process. Okay. One of the other pieces I wanted to highlight, just before I speak about this beautiful image, is that Chief Louie had asked us some time ago for a series of trainings and opportunities to help to socialize jurisdiction for communities and for chief and council. So I wanted to highlight that we do have a series of those trainings that are available for any of the communities that want to hear a little bit more about the technical details and processes within the jurisdiction process. And to go back to the Oversight Committee, I just wanted to highlight as well Chief Robert Michel, Chief Martin Louie, Chief Maureen Lugie, Chief Karina Lewin, and Chief Priscilla Mueller. Mueller are all members of that Oversight Committee currently, and again, that is open for other chiefs to join. I mentioned earlier that the youth have begun to work with us to have their voices heard in this jurisdiction process and in helping to transform our current state of services, of intentions, the philosophies and the values that Caris County holds, to move those and make sure that they're embedded into the future state, into when we have our own law over children and family services that moves us out from under the ministry's oversight. We recently, at the last Matriarch's Voices, did the business of formally inviting the Youth Advisory Council to participate with the matriarchs in the planning, in the focus groups, and working through the details of what needs to be addressed so that everyone's voice is heard. What we did after that was my cultural rights worker, Keisha McKenzie, had spoken about the idea of, well, we have the Sarah images. We have, I'm going to unveil another image at the end of this presentation that embodies the young men in this work and the life cycle model. When we asked the youth, which of these images that we have do you see yourself aligning with? Which one of these might share your voice? And some of the feedback, and I told Kayla I wasn't going to tell this story, but I am. Some of the feedback was that the youth looked at the voices, the singular voices of the images that we had, and they said, why are they alone? And so we put it back to the Youth Advisory Council and said, what would you like to see yourself as? What is the image you would like to vision as representative of your voice and jurisdiction? And this is the image that they came up with. So this is brand new. It will become part of the jurisdiction imagery going forward. You'll see it, you'll revisit it. And I just frankly think it's absolutely beautiful. Something we missed. That's why we listen to our youth. All right. So just some quick highlights from the last year of the work that we've done. We had a number of community engagements and focus group engagements. Successfully, we had 2 Matriarchs Voices sessions in the last year. We commenced the men's conference, the gathering of men's voices to contribute their experiences, their stories, and their input into the jurisdiction process and how we'll transform and change into the future state. We've participated quite heavily in supporting Joan Conlon and the Director of Child Safety in the designated representative training. We worked with the Vancouver office and provided an event there, an information and engagement event for the members there. And a number of foundations trainings. And we've hosted those now in Burns Lake, Smithers, Prince George, and in previous years, one in Vancouver. These foundations trainings are an opportunity for staff, the jurisdiction team, and what we call nested members who are working in different departments to come together and learn about those really technical foundational details of what this whole work means. As you've heard today, it's highly complex. Sandra was able to share some of the details going on in the legal realm about what this really means. Mary shares very frequently the details of what this means on the national level for nations across Canada. So we pull these foundations trainings together to really just make sure everyone is speaking the same language about jurisdiction when we talk about jurisdiction. We've had a number of staff-based engagement sessions. When we listen to community and community tell us what they vision the future to look like, what they would like to see happen under jurisdiction, they often say, oh, and this relationship I have with this staff person at Karisakani makes sense. Let's do more of that. So in order to understand what that was, we realized we also need to do engagements within our own agencies and with our own staff. And so we have a robust staff engagement process. And Warner had mandated that everyone take it. We're at about 57% right now. So we'll continue those engagements as we go forward to hear more about the illustrations of those stories when community tell us that relationship works. How does that relationship work? That's what we want to draw in and take forward. We do quite a bit of work as a jurisdiction team in agency capacity development, including supporting the legal department build. You'll hear from my colleague, Executive Director Julie Dom for the Justice Department shortly, and the child safety build. These three departments, jurisdiction, child safety, and justice, are sort of coming up together, if you will, growing up together and bringing all of the wealth of information of the departments that are more seasoned than us as we go together, really forming and framing up what the future state's going to look like. And we have a very robust community engagement plan that was signed off and approved in March 2023. And I believe in January we have a monthly robust calendar that we will be commencing. A couple of other highlights, and again, the First Peoples Cultural Council highlight here is actually the subject of our Guzi Duslas this month, so please do take a read of that. With the First Peoples Cultural Council, we worked to take care of information that was CSFS held. So within the sort of environment of CSFS that we already had, to digitize it, to archive and store it. This is including thousands of interviews and photos, video cassettes, in some cases original papers and research that has come within that 33 years of work towards this jurisdiction process we're in now. At the last count, I believe, and I know my staff are online and listening, so I'm hoping I get these numbers right, but we were somewhere over 5,400 individual articles that we've now digitized and we are categorizing and archiving for access not only for the agency and the work that we do going forward to make sure we're listening to those that came before us, but also for community to access for projects that they may be interested in and need that information for. We were also successful in producing Sohat Nizye, To Be Raised in a Good Way, a documentary, and hosted a sharing circle alongside of youth services and community members to really discuss and digest some of those teachings, and some of the members of that video are in the audience here today. All right. And just to wrap our presentation, I'd like to introduce you to another of the visuals that we'll be using as a storytelling mechanism and process as we go forward. This is young William, and there are a series of images of William at different ages, as there are a series of the Sarah stories that you saw in our recruitment campaign earlier, and they represent the life cycle models at particular stages of development, needs, learning, and enthusiasm. And so this is the newest alongside of the youth group photo. Oh.
Stephanie, can you mention the change from Joseph to William and what?
Yes, I remember the story of Mary and Joseph. We had changed the name from Joseph to William. I recall the conversation, Mabel, around the Mary and Joseph confusion and the Sarah and William combination. But did you want to share the story that you shared with the advisory? Thanks.
So anyways, they told me the little boy would be called Joseph. And then I thought, well, it might sound too colonialistic, Catholic, and so I suggested we change the name to William. And why I thought of William was probably maybe 20, 25 years ago, we had a meeting with clan leaders and hereditary chiefs in Sulaco to plan a potlatch that CS West was going to host. And William Joseph from Yakuche was there. And he looked at Mary and Warner and said that he wanted them to do one good paper about everything. And so I think William is going to be our one good paper for William Joseph from Yakuche.
All right. So that's a summary, a high-level summary of the jurisdiction work for the last year, and we're open for questions. January, every month. It's intense.
Check 1 2, check 1 2. We got sound now. Way. Whoa. All right. Questions? Joni. Here you go. First one from the floor.
Hi, I just wanted to, it's more of a comment. I had to step out of the room, but Stephanie has been, and her team have been extremely instrumental in the designated rep training as well. So I wanted to speak to that because Chief Maureen had talked about building those capacities within community and supporting that learning in community. And so I just wanted to say that those, we have been directed to be sharing and networking and creating those relationships, particularly with our designated reps. I see members in the room and how important that training has been. We've had 3 sessions with Stephanie, given her expertise with the Indigenous Perspective Society and all of that work she's done. So just so everybody is aware, that training is ongoing. It'll happen every quarter. We are in contact with your designated reps in community and anybody that you would like to send. And so that's regular and ongoing. And I just wanted to thank Stephanie for that support as well to do that training.
We'll go to Chief Maureen, Wet'suwet'en First Nation.
Messiah. Stephanie and Mabel, thank you for your report. Very good report. I noticed the part about justice, and I realized Julie Dom is going to be doing a report on justice, and it is getting way past our time where we were supposed to adjourn today, so I might have to leave early. But I just wanted to express to CSFS that I'm not certain if you're familiar with the BC First Nations Justice Council, but so I was at the BC AFN AGM recently, and there was a report given by Lydia Whitson from Cowichan about, I think she might be the chair or she sits on the board for the Justice Council. And so there is a Justice Center here. In fact, I think it's right across the street. And they're going to be opening 6 more centers in BC. But if you go on their website, you have until October 31st to submit an expression of interest if you want a justice center in your area. And so the 6 elected chiefs in Burns Lake, from Lake Babine, Wet'suwet'en, Nitai Ban, Skintai, and Sefkezkal have all, and Cheslada, sorry, have all signed a joint letter with expressing interest to establish a justice center in Burns Lake. Right now, if we have child and family issues, if we have criminal issues, those cases are sometimes referred to Smithers, Prince George, Vanderhoof, or Burns Lake. And so our people are already living in poverty, and they have to travel to those areas and go to court and be very poorly represented by lawyers who don't seem to care what the outcome is going to be for families and children and for clients. And so we've seen a number of, people in our reserve that are experiencing that. And so the purpose of that justice center is similar to the old law centers, but I think this is, a similar mandate. And so we want to be able to be sure that the people in our community that are living in poverty and don't have access to that service, that they'll have it in Burns Lake. And so I just thought I would let CSFS know, because I don't know if you guys are pursuing that here or if you're familiar with the Justice Council. And then I'm getting emails of which I'm being invited to engage about, things related to justice, I think, from the federal government. I don't know if you guys get those same emails, but, while we're on that topic, I think, I really am more interested in sharing information so that the other leaders who might want to consider doing an expression of interest, if you want a center in Vanderhoof or Fraser Lake, I don't know if there would be enough of a population, but I know for us, some of the clients have to travel from the south side, and that's already a challenge in itself, to have to hop on a ferry and then travel another 15 miles and then go to Smithers, or even coming to Burns Lake. And then I think with the Lake Babine Nation, they have 3 large communities, of course, and the travel from some of the remote communities is quite challenging. So we do our best in Burns Lake to start communicating with each other as elected leaders and collaborating together and working together, because there's just so many social issues that we have to face. And so supporting one another, I think, is really important politically. And so thank you for the report. And I didn't fully get to listen to all of it, otherwise I would have had more questions, but I know that you guys are doing a good job and doing your best, because I've heard your reports at other tables that I sit on. So, Masai.
Thank you for those comments. And as you were speaking, my colleague was taking rampant notes, and I did just witness and observe Warner also hand a random note over. I do want to reassure you that both the jurisdiction work plans as well as the Justice Department work plans have robust components around partnerships, and especially partnerships with other aspects and service providing agencies and entities like the BC Justice Council. Both Julie and I have supported one of their pilot projects, and we've worked very closely with that on, it's particularly focused on the population of youth who have aged into the streets, and on the justice components associated to that. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Stepping down.
Thank you, Mabel and Stephanie.